Secretary of State Marco Rubio is on fire today. Not only did he deliver substantive performances on Fox News and ABC, but on CBS, he called out Face the Nation's Margaret Brennan for pushing and endorsing, quote, stupid media narratives. Take a look.
There is concern from the Europeans that President Zelensky is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you?
No, it isn't. That's not why they're coming as back. That's not true. No, but that's not why. That's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming.
That February Oval Office
they're coming here tomorrow
in front of television cameras, where President Zelensky.
Do you know how many meetings we've had since then?
Oh no, I know, and I was just up in Alaska watching the one with Vladimir Putin, where a red carpet rolled out.
No, but it was Zelensky. We've had more meetings. We've had one meeting with Putin and like a dozen meetings with Zelensky. So, but that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're coming here tomorrow because we've been working with the Europeans. We talked to them last week. There were meetings in the UK over the previous weekend.
And they said President Trump was going to demand a ceasefire
as early as Thursday. No. But you said that they're coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming here tomorrow. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks on this stuff. They're coming here tomorrow because they chose to come here tomorrow. We invited them to come. We invited them to come. The president invited them to come.
But the president told those European leaders last week that he wanted a ceasefire. The president went on television, said he would walk out of the meeting if Vladimir Putin didn't agree with one. He said there would be severe consequences if he didn't agree to one. He said he'd walk out in 2 minutes. He spent 3 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and he did not get one. So there's
because obviously things happened during that meeting. Well, because obviously look, our goal here is not to stage some production for the world to say, oh, how dramatic, he walked out. Our goal here is to have a peace agreement, to end this war, okay? And obviously we felt, and I agreed, that there was enough progress, not a lot of progress, but enough progress made in those talks to allow us to move to the next phase. If not, we wouldn't be having Zelensky flying all the way over here. We wouldn't be having all the Europeans coming all the way over here. Now understand, and take with a grain of salt, I'm not saying we're on the verge of a peace deal, but I am saying that we saw movement, enough movement to justify a follow-up meeting with Zelensky and the Europeans, enough movement for us to dedicate even more time to this. You talk about the sanctions. Look, at the end of the day, if peace is not going to be possible here, and this is just going to continue on as a war, people will continue to die by the thousands. The president has that option to then come in and impose new sanctions. But if he did this now, the moment the president puts those additional sanctions, that's the end of the talks. You've basically locked in at least another year to year and a half of war and death and destruction. We may unfortunately wind up there, but we don't want to wind up there. We want to wind up with a peace deal that ends this war so Ukraine can go on with the rest of their lives and rebuild their country and be assured that this is never going to happen again. That's the goal here. We're going to do everything possible to make that happen if it's doable. It will require both sides to make concessions. It will require both sides to get things they're asking for. That's how these deals are made, whether we like it or not.
What a great answer. Now, Margaret Brennan was pushing this idea that Vladimir Zelensky was going to be bullied by President Trump, and that's why all these European leaders are coming, right? But doesn't that showcase how weak how weak the pro-Ukrainian argument is? And please don't misinterpret me. I'm not saying I'm anti-Ukraine or anything like that, but this idea that Zelensky would be bullied. I mean, he's the leader of the war in Ukraine. He's the leader of Ukraine's defense right now. If you're afraid that he's going to be bullied by President Trump, how could you possibly have faith that he would lead the Ukrainians to victory? You really can't have it both ways. So it's really funny that on the one hand, they're propping him up as a hero, they're propping him up as a wartime leader, yet they're trying to have their cake and eat it too by promoting this narrative. Oh, he's so weak. He's just going to be bullied by President Trump, and he's going to fall to submission, and he's going to sign some sort of agreement that's bad for Ukraine and his people. But look, as more information comes out, it really corroborates what Marco Rubio just said, as well as what I reported yesterday and in my upload earlier this morning. According to CNBC, White House envoy Steve Witkoff claims Russia agreed to Article 5 Article 5 style security guarantees for Ukraine. Assuming all of this is true, and of course it's all subject to change, but assuming it's true, it would make sense then that European leaders would also be headed to the White House to discuss what these guarantees would look like with Zelensky and to discuss what sort of role the United States would play in facilitating this or participating in it. I know there would be some debate as to whether or not that is wise. And hopefully, again, if this is true, then hopefully Putin keeps up his end of the bargain. Now, the media is using everything they can from this Alaska summit to criticize the administration. And the latest example of this really comes from NPR. Government papers found in an Alaskan hotel reveal new details of Putin-Trump summit. Now, just based on the headline, it looks like, oh, cool, new juicy details. But as you read the article, it's very clear that their spin, their angle in this is to attack the Trump administration as being careless. Oh, they left papers, security papers, and classified documents in the hotel. It's a security breach. This is a national security issue. But then NPR actually published a few photos, and this is what was left behind in the hotel. They left behind a lunch menu in the trash, as well as the schedule, which had already happened. So unless, I guess, you're concerned about the creme brulee, I guess that's a national security risk. And I don't know, maybe someone out there has a time machine and they can go backwards now thanks to that schedule and somehow sabotage the meeting. I don't necessarily see how those documents left in the hotel are a national security risk. The reality is that our biggest national security risk is if this war continues, if this war does not come to an end. Yes, it doesn't involve us, but matter of fact is we're still sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. We're still sending weapons overseas, and it's affecting our own weapon stockpile here at home. But on top of all of that, it's also the risk that a NATO ally gets hit and Article 5 on our end gets triggered. I mean, there are so many ways that this war can get worse than it already is. And that's why President Trump and the administration are looking for various off-ramps. You heard Marco Rubio say that they're exploring all the other options while the people are willing to talk, while people are willing to negotiate. Sure, we can go for even more sanctions, but we already saw previous ones didn't really have that much of an effect. The war is still ongoing. People are still dying, and it just keeps people away from the table for longer. Well, even though this isn't our war, the U.S. still has a role to play, if even only for our self-interest. Here's what Marco Rubio had to say.
Well, first of all, the Russians are already facing very severe consequences. There's not a single sanction that's been lifted. And not one. I mean, they're facing all the same sanctions that have been in place today. All the American support continues for Ukraine. And ultimately, look, if we're not going to be able to reach an agreement here at any point, then there are going to be consequences. Not only the consequences of the war continuing, but the consequences of all those sanctions continuing and potentially new sanctions on top of it as well. But what we're trying to do right now is end the war. And in order to end the war, you've got to give every opportunity that exists. You have to be open to any opportunity that exists to bring it about. And here's the thing to remind everybody, and when the president says this is not our war, but let's be frank, this is not our war. The United States is not in a war. Ukraine is in a war, and we've been supporting Ukraine. We happen to be in the role of the only country in the world, with the only leader in the world, that can actually bring Putin to a table to even discuss these things. Now, the president has traveled, all the way to Alaska, all the way back, has dedicated months and months of work, him, our entire team on this matter, because we want to see an end to the war. But if tomorrow the war continues, life in America will not be fundamentally altered. So I think that what we have to understand is that this has been a priority for this president because he wants to promote peace. He wants to promote the end of a war. And I think we should be happy that we have a president that's trying to promote peace and bring a war to an end.
And honestly, I think the American people are going to give President Trump the benefit of the doubt. I might not agree with how President Trump handles everything, like the blow up in the Oval Office earlier this year with Zelensky. I understand why that happened, but I was disappointed that it ended that way. And I thought Zelensky generally, I mean, it was just disappointing to see that happen, right? But at least we see President Trump trying to aim for peace. This war was ongoing under Joe Biden. When did you ever hear about Joe Biden holding a summit or meeting with leaders and really trying to get everyone to the table to bring this to an end? I mean, I get people called him Sleepy Joe, but it's not as if we saw movement from the Secretary of State under Joe Biden or any of his envoys to attempt to bring this to a close, at least not to the level that we're seeing under President Trump. So tomorrow, Zelensky, as well as other Europeans, will be in the White House to meet with President Trump. And the goal here is to eventually be able to facilitate a meeting between all three leaders, Zelensky, Putin, as well as Trump. But before I get to that, I would like to acknowledge Jeremy 2001 Happy, as well as Priest and Kolnon Sinen Kuso as the members of today's Governor's Club. These, of course, are people who have given tips and super thanks to the channel. I am so glad that you enjoy. Well, it wasn't just Face the Nation. It wasn't just ABC News. Marco Rubio also went on Fox. He spoke with Maria Bartiromo and really talked about the end goal in all of this.
This war is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. You've seen that in the escalation and the attacks. Russia's economy is now 100% full-time war footing. They are producing munitions. The Ukrainians are as well. Both sides are hitting each other very, very hard. And the war is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So he's trying to do everything he can to bring it to an end. But people that are out there talking what they don't know with all these stupid leaks and things of that nature, they all want to just sound important. They don't know what they're talking about. The president's been very clear. In terms of like what Zelensky's going to agree to, that's up to them to decide. They're going to have to decide what they're willing to give and ultimately what they're going to get, what they're going to demand as well. Both sides are going to, but here's what I can tell you for certain. You can't have a peace deal between two warring factions unless both sides agree to give up something and both sides agree that the other side gets something. Right? Otherwise, if one side gets everything they want, that's not a peace deal. It's called surrender. And I don't think this is a war that's going to end anytime soon on the basis of surrender. So this is tough stuff. I mean, it's difficult to bring these two sides together. We made some progress, we believe, and now we'll have to follow up on that progress. And ultimately, where this should lead is to a meeting between the three leaders, between Zelensky, Putin, and President Trump, where we could finalize it. But we got to get this thing closer before we get to that point.
100%. The word that I love using, obviously, whenever I discuss this is the off-ramp. You always want to find that off-ramp because it's just going to get worse. Exactly what Marco Rubio said there. And look, I read all the comments still, and I saw a few comments on the last two uploads basically saying that they're disappointed with how this is all unfolding, and people, and I agree, in principle, I agree that it is wrong, it would be wrong for Ukraine to surrender the land. You're essentially giving a green light to an authoritarian like Putin. You're giving a green light for that bad behavior. But if you try to war game this out, I just honestly don't see, and people obviously much smarter than myself have already put in immense brain power over several years trying to figure out the best way to bring this to an end. But just from the outside, just from a regular person with no military experience looking in, it's like, how can this war come to an end unless Ukraine somehow is able to boost their defenses and go on the offense and reclaim that territory? I don't think that's going to happen unless other countries get involved, which is obviously not what we want. So I think the trade-off here is that land, unfortunately, but what they would get and what Russia would have to concede are what we discussed earlier, not just in this video, but the previous videos. So those Article 5 style, those Article 5 like guarantees. I don't know what they look like. I don't have inside resources into what's going on behind closed doors, but I wouldn't be surprised if it involves European nations like the UK, Turkey, France, and maybe the US facilitates it. But assuming all of that is true, assuming that there really is an Article 5 like guarantee and that Putin is willing to go along with it, well, that definitely would give Ukraine an advantage over what they currently have and what their situation currently is. As always, though, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So let's just play a game. Let's imagine you were president or you were Secretary of State. How would you bring this war to an end? Or how would you like to see this war come to an end? Would you do what Trump is doing? Would you do something different? Would you get involved in Ukraine? Would you just wipe your hands and say, not our problem? Let me know your strategy down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.